No matter what you do or where you go in Dead Rising, you're always constantly reminded that they are everywhere, against you at every moment, hiding in the background, actually controlling your every motivation and step. Just when you think you're in full control of a situation, it can only get worse by the day. Capcom cleverly hides Dead Rising's true horror under a sheet of zombies and gore, but under that sheet there is a bigger threat that faces us every single day. Time. Clocks. Constantly ticking away against the player and constantly ticking away the time you have to survive. I would like to welcome you to this week's video where we talk about the real horror of Dead Rising very quickly makes it clear that zombies aren't exactly the focal point of the horror in the series, being nothing but an obstacle to get into the player's way and actually slowing them down every step of the way, providing near to no fear of their own. But to really understand the horror which Dead Rising provides, we must first look into its humour. If Frank West was the director of this film, then the zombies are the comedy actors to provide the slapstick. Capcom were known for mastering the zombie genre in video games, especially with the Resident Evil series. The zombies there act as a threat to the player and can provide tons of tension for any situation. And it isn't just a matter of people finding zombies not as scary as they once did, because in recent example of Capcom's Resident Evil 2 remake, we can find that they can still provide that tension and scare that once was there. But instead it's Capcom's understanding of the creature and the horror genre as a whole and how to release that tension for the player to enjoy the moment. Dead Rising's horror actually thrives on that feeling that all players had when first entering that mansion in Resident Evil 1, and actually growing on that expectations of what to expect from a Capcom zombie horror game. But within the first 10 minutes this game shows you how it releases that tension and thrives on its comedy. You see the single zombie on its own, you just roundhouse kick it in the face. It can be actually a therapeutic outlet for people who were once scared of the Resident Evil series. If you're in fear of being cornered by hundreds of zombies, don't worry, why not just pick one up by the legs and take it for a spin? Being stuck in a one-on-one situation with the zombies with no weapon, well why not pull out their guts and kill them instantly? It's these ridiculous situations and solutions that create a sense of safety and control in your surroundings. That's a very important feeling to give to the audience when you're providing horror, a sense of control. Because when you give an audience the sense of control, they can feel like they're in charge of the situation and they have a fuller understanding of what's happening there, therefore they feel a little bit more relaxed. And if you can give audience that control in little handouts, you can take it back from them immediately and recreate that tension that was once there at the beginning. Good examples of this seen in other medias are in like Shaun of the Dead when they're surviving in the Winchester pub and they have to beat a zombie to the beat of Queen's Don't Stop Me Now. For the short moment you really feel like you have the rhythm and control of the situation until they are desperately reminded that they actually are surrounded by zombies outside the pub, and therefore the music goes away and once again creates that oh god wait a minute we're in this situation. Or with Dawn of the Dead when they first learn that they're trapped in a mall all to themselves, free to take and use anything they want at their will. This scene sort of gives a moment of hey wait a minute, maybe it isn't all that bad, and trying to give a silver lining to every situation, but very quickly you learn that food supplies run out and wait a minute, you might have to do something than just enjoying yourself in this situation. These moments is what it's about, giving people control and then immediately taking it away to create a sense of tension. But eventually there's always going to be a reminder to the first reason why you wanted to have a distraction in the first place. Dead Rising constantly reminds the player of the little time they have to kill, both literally and figuratively. As you enter a new area, it can bring back that slow feeling of Resident Evil when you're opening doors. The tension and how much time you have left is constantly reminded to you. This can leave you both terrified and also frustrated in all the right ways. To put the player up on a pedestal and say you have to get the scoop of a lifetime, be in the right place at the right time, and most importantly don't die alone is enough to stress out a player and give them a real reason to think out a game plan. This is actually a similar experience to playing Majora's Mask, learning and doing as much as you can do before you have to start your next loop. Or even more recently with the fantastic Outer Wilds, with your 30-second doomsday clock ticking at every second, giving the player no clue of what to do, only slight breadcrumbs, and they have to solve this mystery before the loop goes over and over again. But Dead Rising doesn't flow on that time loop, it gives the player one shot not to fail. But before the end of even day 1, the players have mastered and learned the way out through the mall. They've learned the best ways to get around the hordes of zombies, and this will actually become natural to any player who picks up this game. But what Capcom does here to add both difficulty and tension to the situation is every single day and minute that goes by, zombies only multiply within the mall. And this gives you that fear of seeing that time ticking away, and running back to the safe house gives you that feeling of anxiety and rush that is always so familiar, like catching a bus late to school or work. Having a world that's working against and slowing the player at every single junction is both stressful and engaging in a way that only Dead Rising can seem to create. And what I spoke about there was only handling the main scoop. Dead Rising is probably the longest escort game ever made. Throughout this game you'll be juggling zombies, a main story, but you're also given survivors to save and psychopaths to defeat. The basic survivors can provide a slight distraction that requires the player's full attention. You'd have to use your spare time to see if you can actually save these characters for a great reward, helping the player actually handle zombies and bosses with ease, therefore saving you more time in the future. But the fun part is when you're actually required a little bit more of a special attention. Some may even give Frank a bit of a handicap. Sometimes you have to give up your ability to attack and even clear a path to assist an AI to safety, to pick them up or to carry them, or even give them a shoulder to lean on. Some of them maybe even be sort of provided with a boss fight to save them. Some would ask you to do special tasks like going out of your way, searching for food, losing your inventory, and even regaining food for the safe house, otherwise you might lose all that XP as well. Each and every scoop and survivor is placed here to perfectly hinder the speed of which the player is able to master this world. Becoming a master of this world therefore loses all its tension. Therefore, becoming a master of this world requires you to have full control, and that's not what horror is about. Just as you're taking a nice stroll through the shortcut through the park to get to the other side of the mall, you're meeting with a car filled with convicts, which would need to have the player to use a lot of time to actually focus and get these guys out of the way, otherwise they're just a hindrance and therefore lose all control of that area. And if a player actually isn't willing to take out these convicts, then they would have to take a longer journey around the mall, therefore wasting a lot more time on which they could be actually using to get the scoop that they need or saving survivors. By day 2 you'll come across an evil cult which will begin to fill up all your shortcuts with cultists praying and, well, blowing themselves up. And if you want to come into combat with these cultists, you have to be prepared, because these guys can actually take you off guard, kidnap you, you wake up some time later, lose all your inventory, and once again this becomes a major slowdown, and this actually emulates losing all control of the mall entirely. This makes the player go on edge, they become another hindrance, and they become another hurdle for you to get over. Losing control means you don't have control of the time that you have to save or even end the game. You don't have the perfect ways around the mall, and you don't have the ways to get the survivors to safety like you thought you once did. And this is where the horror of Dead Rising comes in. But Capcom once again proved that they understand the genre to a masterful level, and they know how to ease off that tension to give the player a little bit of fun, to make it not a dreadful experience at every second. At some points during the story they will tell you to meet at a certain time frame, and in this time frame they will say you're free to explore, but there's also some time frames to save survivors or even do some bosses on the side. And this gives the player that moment of relaxing. It's that safe room feeling of Resident Evil. You have the moment to sort of recalculate yourself, relearn your situation, understand what enemies you want to take care of, and understand what survivors you need to save. Of course they only give you a few minutes to enjoy this, but it gives you enough time to feel like you're really enjoying the experience, and you can see how you learn as a player. You see how you can progress through this story and master its layout and world. The fun of Dead Rising is that you're able to come back to it time and time again and just get better and better by the day. And it's entirely okay to fail to this game and come back and start a new save at a higher level and get that perfect run. Time management is key to the series, and why it provides some of the most memorable experiences is because it actively asks the player to engage themselves and use their time wisely. It really asks you to solve the puzzle of how you're going to save someone, how you're going to get everything done perfectly, how you're going to get to somewhere in time. It's something that asks you to take inventory without even thinking about it. And maybe next time someone tells you that Dead Rising isn't a horror game because of its zombies, humour and slapstick, remind them of the times they were screaming at the screen in panic to just get Sophie across the courtyard. Dead Rising is 110% horror, but it doesn't have to be focused on jump scares. It focuses on the time that we have and the management that we have in our situations. As I focused and said a lot in this video, it's about that control. The control that you have taking back the mansion in Resident Evil, or taking out all the zombies in Resident Evil 2 Remake just for Mr. X to come by and ruin your whole entire game plan. It's this understanding of tension and control taken away that Capcom really understand. They understand that they can put this in a horror situation, they can understand that they can put it in a comedy situation. Time itself is scary, and we all have so little of it to use. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Dead Rising is one of my favourite games of all time. I think I play it at least once a year. I've had a ton of fun making this video. I've had a ton of fun thinking about how Dead Rising affects me as a player and how I feel that its horror relates to me as a person. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was insightful. I hope you had a good time. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, please leave a like. Why not subscribe? I'm making new videos every single week just like this. I hope to sort of educate people. I'm not too sure. I want to sort of give my opinion and stuff I know about certain subjects that I find quite interesting, and hopefully you find it interesting too. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and of course I'll see you at the next checkpoint. Goodbye.